Picking your build for the start of a season, cycle, league, or whatever is always a little bit difficult, at least if you're like me. And speaking of, I really haven't decided my build yet. If you want to know what I'm going to play, you're going to have to get subscribed and then tune into my stream, which will be happening later today. On the other hand, if you're feeling indecisive about your build as well, then I have some good news for you. Because here at maxroll, we just launched our last Epoch branch, which has, you guessed it, build guides, monolith guides, dungeon guides, resources, tier lists, and an entire planner. So let's start by going over some of the things you'll need throughout your endgame journey. If you're completely new to last Epoch, then check out Monolith Guide for Beginners. If you need to get to Empowered, you feel like you're stuck, we have a guide for that. And if you already know most of this stuff, you could find a few tips and tricks in the Advanced Monolith Strategies. If you're stuck on a specific boss or want to know why you might want to farm a particular monolith, then there's a dedicated guide for each timeline, plus a guide for each boss. On the other hand, if you want to do some dungeons, maybe the Temporal Sanctum, Soulfire Bastion, or Lightless Arbor, we have guides for all of those as well. And if you're looking for more information on how to play the game, we have a bevy of resources, mechanical explanations for damage, defenses, ailments, buffs, experience, how to make a loot filter and understanding maxroll loot filters, a respec guide, passives and skills, and a shrines guide. Then a full campaign walkthrough, unique item farming, arena guides, gear and crafting, class overview, and of course our gear planner, which I'll get into by the end. But of course, that's probably not why you're here. You're probably here because right now you need a build to start 0.9. And here is the Mastery tier list. If all you care about is a strong build, then you want something that's S tier, like the Necromancer, Sorcerer, Lich, or Druid. Now, luckily for me, I was planning to start an Acolyte, and both of the Acolyte Masteries currently in the game, Necromancer and Lich, are S tier. So, looks like I'm good to go. In A tier, we have Blade Dancer, Paladin, or Marksman. Then in B tier, we have Void Knight, Forge Guard, and Beastmaster. Finally, down at C, we have Shaman and Spellblade. If you want the strongest, fastest, bestest build, you're probably going to be looking in S tier, as you'll have the easiest time there. That doesn't mean there aren't builds for Shaman and Spellblade that excel. There's going to be builds for every mastery that do. It just so happens that more of the builds on the top tier masteries are better than more of the builds on the lower tier masteries. But don't worry too much about picking your mastery. There's a ton of viable stuff. Last Epoch overall isn't a super difficult game, and it eases you into its difficulty very well. Then if you want to build, well, maybe I was looking for an Acolyte build. What if I wanted to play a Lich? Here we have Lich Leveling Guide, Hungering Souls, and Marrow Shards. Now on the other hand, if instead of being undead I want to command an army of undead, I could use the Necromancer Leveling Guide or the Golem Necromancer Guide. Again, while these are great options and perfect for someone who does need a guide, don't feel like these are the only viable builds in Last Epoch. There's plenty more. Experiment, respecking isn't too hard. You can always use the respec guide and the resources and pick a build for yourself. So with that said, let's dive into all the builds currently listed here. There's Elemental Nova Sorcerer. I've played a little bit of Elemental Nova before. It's a very fun build. Requires a couple of unique items to really shine in my opinion, but they're not that hard to farm. Fireball Sorcerer, not something I've played, but it's Fireball, it's in pretty much every game. You have to make a build for it. Glacier Sorcerer, I messed around with Glacier, but I've only ever really used it for leveling. It hits really hard and has some big numbers. Unfortunately, those big numbers do come with big mana costs, so a little care needs to be taken. Then there's the Marksman Leveling Guide, a Sorcerer Leveling Guide, Static Orb Sorcerer. This is one of the build recommendations that I made. Static Orb is actually one of the skills that I recommended. It's extremely powerful, and if you feel like you need a guide, then here it is. Next up, we have Spellblade leveling, Forge Guard leveling, Paladin leveling, Necromancer leveling, Lich leveling, and Shaman leveling. These are, of course, good if you want to level the build. They're also nice because you get a little bit of an idea of the damage types involved, so you know what to look out for. Then there's Echo Warpath. Haven't played Echo Warpath, I played Echo Rive. I'd assume a lot of aspects of the builds are quite similar. I don't know quite where Rive ended up after all the changes for 0.9, but it was pretty fun back when I played it. Then there's Manifest Armor Forge Guard. Haven't done too much with Forge Guards. Probably going to make a shield throw build of some sort at some point in the future though. Druid leveling, Beastmaster leveling, Blade Dancer leveling, Holy Trail Javelin. I've heard nothing but good things about Holy Trail Javelin, and from a little bit that I did mess around with it when I played, it was very powerful. Electrified Javelin is also something that I've heard good things about. Then there's Reign of Winter Bowmage, another build that I've recommended in the past, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. You need Morning Frost, you need Reign of Winter, they're not too hard to farm, just get really well acquainted with Hero Rot, the Centaur or Horseman. Finally, we have page 2, with Hail of Arrow Marksman, something that I played before, though not the cold version. I played the Sanguine Horde Bleed version. Explosive Thorn Totem Shaman, Shadow Daggers Blade Dancer. Shadow Daggers are still quite strong and fairly versatile. Hungering Souls Lich. Honestly, the more I see this, the more that might just be my start. Marrow Shards Lich, Ignite Shield Rush Forge Guard. Forge Guard does tend to do very well with both Ignite and fire-based builds, though ailments are also a little bit up in the air right now, so I'm not quite sure how strong the build's going to end up being relative to some of the others on this list. Then 2 Werebear guides. Honestly, Earthquake or Swipe, you can't really go wrong with either one. Both are excellent. Dancing Strikes, as long as you like the playstyle, it's kind of a pseudo-channeling jumping around thing, then it's very good. Void Knight leveling. Dragonsong Marksman. Haven't actually used that before, so I'm not very familiar with this build. Shield Throw Paladin. Well, I mean, if you want to be Captain America, there's your build. Cold Out Werebear, another staple. Again, you really can't go wrong with a Werebear. And the Golem Necromancer for anyone who wants a personal army. So those are all the builds currently available on Maxroll GG Last Epoch. If you want to know more, I'll have all of these linked down in the description, along with the Smite Hammerden build that I played previously. And if you want to look through, maybe see some of my other recommendations, I'll put that, along with my thoughts on the 0.9 patch as a whole, down in the description below. Before I get going though, there's one other important thing that I did promise, and that is to talk about the Last Epoch Planner. The Last Epoch Planner lets you plan out your build or share your build with a friend. You'll just have to sign in or register over here. Start off by picking your mastery, so maybe you're a Sentinel and you're a Paladin. You do your blessings right here, your equipment, your idols, passives, select any skills that you want, maybe your hammer throw, maybe you're using Holy Aura, and right over here you can check settings for passive points and idol slots. These aren't unlocked by default, and if you're making a leveling build, they might end up locked. Then you just put something in the correct slot ideally, like that, and maybe you have a cast Smite on throwing attack. Maybe this is just my Smite Hammerden build. The planner looks absolutely incredible, and it's super easy to use. Plus, if you run into any bugs or have any suggestions, you can always hop up into Discord right there. And so, that's the Last Epoch branch for Maxroll. If you have any feedback, do be sure to put that in the Discord. Just don't put it in the bug report channel. Instead, go down to the Last Epoch section after reacting to give yourself a roll, and put it in the appropriate feedback channel. If you want to share a build with a friend, definitely use the builder. And if you're still looking for something to play, I suggest perusing the build guides. Good luck in 0.9. And if you want to see some 0.9 gameplay for yourself, do be sure to drop by my stream later today, at least if you're watching this when it first goes live. With that said, thanks for watching, and of course, a special thanks to my patrons or channel members for their continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make videos just like this one possible. If you want something else to watch, maybe check out one of my other recent Last Epoch videos. They'll be up in the card and down in the description below. Or of course, you can always go for whatever YouTube recommends right on screen at the moment. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon, and good luck in your journey through Eterra.